people are wondering, like, why should I invest 40 minutes of my time in seeing these two guys talking about product stuff? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say there are quite some knowledge nuggets in this podcast about building a company for product management, a product management audience built by a product person, me, and my team. And you can learn how I approached some of the high-level problems in building a product tool for product people. And you will also learn how I sometimes didn't make use of the product management toolset when building the product, when building the company. And you can probably avoid a few mistakes that we've made over the years. For example, validating high-level hypothesis problems around like what product, what company to build, what go-to-market motion to pick. In our case, we went way too late after the sales motion. And you can learn that distribution is super important, and especially in 2025.
Awesome. And I can say that in 40 minutes, you can learn how to save a few years of investment if you follow the lessons that Malte just shared throughout the podcast. So listen to get them. Hi everyone, welcome to Untrapping Product Teams. Here we speak the naked truth about creating digital products. And today I have Malte here, who is the co-founder and CEO of Airfocus. Welcome, Malte.
Thanks, David. It's amazing to be here, and it's good to see you again.
Great to see you too. So we're going to talk today specifically about your journey from founding a company to being acquired. So I want to get the lessons. So maybe we start with like, what were you doing before you found Airfocus?
Yeah, so I'm a product guy, although I don't have a very long product manager career. I worked for 3 years as a product manager in a mid-sized SaaS company here in Hamburg. And it was a really cool company, great culture, but they weren't very professional or advanced in terms of product management. They were a bit old school. I remember vividly a quarterly roadmap meeting where 30 people were invited and where they went crazy on dot voting. So essentially, the features that got the most votes from all the people, even the intern who started yesterday, everyone was allowed to give 3 dots. And that was essentially how roadmap decisions were made. And I was a bit puzzled because I was fresh out of university and I thought like there are advanced decision-making processes with data and insights. And then this was a bit like grounding and shocking for me. And then I kind of got super passionate about like, okay, how can we improve that, right? And I started building this crazy spreadsheet to help with the prioritization. But I got very low adoption on my spreadsheet, and then I was looking for tools to solve all of these problems. Many of them are alignment problems, and I tried every tool under the moon, under the sun, and none of them worked for me. They were either not doing what I wanted, or they were too inflexible, too rigid. And then I convinced a good friend of mine, who I knew through my wife, and who I knew was an excellent programmer, and I convinced him. Convincing is a too nice of a word. I social pressured him into, hey, you know my wife, you have to do this with me. And we built the first version of Airfocus on the weekends and in the nights, which was a tiny prioritization tool. Yeah, and
Wow.
then after that, you know how life is, right? Like stuff develops, you cannot plan this kind of stuff, yeah, and you end up after a long journey with something completely different than you have originally mapped out. And I'm happy to continue the story, but tell me, what are you interested in?
Oh, it's very interesting. For those listening, I'm pretty sure people connect to the roadmap challenge, different flavors. And it's funny because you mentioned you started in Hamburg, and I had the same thing in Brazil. So different part of the world, exactly the same. A lot of people in the room doing dot voting and so on. And I guess people from USA, India, all the other parts of the world listening to us have similar things. So it took you about 3 years to realize this, and then you start founding the company, and you start like on the background, just creating something and so on. And when was the moment you said, I go all in?
Yeah, so we had a product out. You couldn't pay for it; it was free, and we had like a few hundred users. We got quantitative feedback a little bit, and we got the feeling, okay, we're onto something. There were back then essentially two paths that I could have chosen. One is, I don't know, go out and try to raise a few 100,000 or even less in business angel money. But I was a shy guy, right? I didn't even dare to think about this option. And I think it would have been a valid path. But what I did instead is I took the chance of an offer a friend of mine made to me, which was he asked me if I wanted to join him with a tiny agency, and they had like a bit of customers. So I said like, okay, the agency is the vehicle that will give me more time during the day to work on this, but also will pay my salary, right? And then I started the agency. Then the guy left, and I was alone with an agency with 15 engineers, and the agency actually went super well. We did more than $1 million in revenue in a year, but I invested like all the profits into Airfocus. I also made my technical co-founder Christian quit his job. I convinced another friend, Martin, who is my third co-founder, to also quit his job and join me there. And then we used the profits from the agency to build the first version of Airfocus. And so it was a bit of a less risky approach, right? I didn't go fully all in, but it was really good. And we then started developing the platform, and after a year, we got our first customer. And I still remember like it was yesterday when the Slack message from the Stripe notification arrived. We were all like, "Oh, someone is doing a test. Okay, yeah, sure. It cannot be that someone is paying for the product." But then we investigated, and we found out actually someone paid for Airfocus. It was a magical moment. You have no idea.
Wow.
Yeah,
Which year was that?
that was 2018.
2018.
Yeah, right in the month when my first child was born. It was the
Wow.
start of a roller coaster.
So you had two kids then.
I had my first kid then, and then I
Yeah,
got
but
another one.
our focus became
Yeah,
a
yeah,
second one together.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
High maintenance kids both.
Yeah. And like, how long did it take for you to get from one customer to 10?
That's a good question. I think a few months, but we grew really fast then. Yeah, I remember it was a prioritization and road mapping tool back then. We got to like good revenue. Like we grew really fast, and we then decided to actually go all in. We stopped business on the agency, and I hate agency work. It's not for me. And we looked for investors and found some business angels who invested $500,000 in Airfocus. And then we said, okay, let's go to work. Let's hire two people. But then like Nauta Capital, which is a great SaaS focused investor from Barcelona, they showed up, and they flew to Hamburg. They really worked hard on us because they really wanted to invest. Kudos to Guillaume, who was the partner back then. And they then convinced us just 5 months after this angel round to take on another 1.7 million to actually go a bit harder. And we did that, and then COVID started to hit. And I think back then we were at, where were we? Like a few 100K in MRR, in AR, something like that, like 100, 200K.
And COVID came and things started changing. But it's very interesting, the journey. So you started as a side thing, and then you start going with some more friends, still doing that. But then before you even got to the first investment, you already had the paying customer.
Yeah,
So it's different than many people try to do. So that's an interesting journey because you started proving there's value in the product. So of course, it increased the value for investors as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that was the good thing. The other thing is we maybe lost a year doing the agency work. So it's really hard to pick the right path here. I think speed matters a lot, and life, time in your life also matters, right? And I would always opt to go with a path that is fast to get results or figure out whether it works or won't work. And so I think if you have the option to go all in on something, always do that.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it started as a prioritization tool and then it grew to roadmap. Like, when was the moment that it started going globally? Like, I'm very curious about this
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah. So first of all, I would say we started with a global mindset from day one. So the product still today is not available in other languages. We have a badly maintained German website, and I think it's a French one or so. But everything, the whole DNA of the product, the company is English from day one, which I think was one of the better decisions. To me, it sounds like very obvious, right? Like, why would a tool where most of the people speak English every day because engineers speak English, why would that be in not a global product? Yeah. But yeah, you would be surprised how many founders I know that develop for the German market, and then I ask them, like, why don't you go international first with a maybe more of a focused niche product or something like that, right? Because niche is always better. And then they cannot give me like a good answer, and then half a year later they go all in on international, and yeah, so I see this mistake a lot still today. Yeah, so it was always very international, and but we realized very quickly that the product is too narrow, right? And we then made at the heights of Corona in the summer of 2020, we made like two big decisions that are still super relevant today. First, we said we need to go broader on the product use case, and we need to become a home for the product people, kind of like a single source of record. That was one. And then the second decision was we said we wanted to do it differently than some of the existing players. So Aha was around for, I don't know, 10 years already. And I have not yet met a user that is loving Aha, which is a very powerful and good product, right? But it's just like rigid and a monster of a software and feature loaded and bloated. And there was also Product Board, which is also a good product. But we were inspired by tools like Notion, Airtable, Coda, where there's everything is around flexibility, almost in a no-code mindset, right? And so we then said, okay, let's build the Notion for product management, something that is modular, flexible, but is still focused on the product use case. And then we essentially rebuilt the entire platform just 1.5 years into the company, and the whole rebuild took us 1 year. We didn't ship anything, just rebuilt the platform, which was a huge nightmare and a big learning for me. And then in the summer of 2021, we launched the modular AirFocus end-to-end product management platform. And that is still what we have today, right? We then have built on top of this modular architecture and built more extensions, more apps, more core features. But the whole idea has remained since then, and this is what customers love about AirFocus. It's the most flexible platform, and so we found our niche in the market of product management and road mapping software.
And that sounds like a vision you had back then, and you said, like, let's do this, go broad, let's be the home for product people and so
Yeah,
on. But back then, did you think that as a vision? How did you come up with that? Because it seemed like it went like in a very fluid way, hands-on and so on.
yeah, yeah. I would say it was a vision, but there were also many things that we didn't know, and it was very gut driven. Yeah, so we had some signals from the customers. We saw adoption problems with the niche product we had, right? They logged in once per week or once per month. So we saw this in the data. And then from conversations, we saw that we are not covering the end-to-end spectrum, or we don't cover more of the use cases. And like we didn't cover like feedback management and insights. We didn't cover portfolio management. We didn't cover capacity planning, like all the things that the product team or product leaders have to do. And that kind of concluded in this realization, okay, we have to go end to end. And then the modular thing was really just a gut and taste decision, right? We just hated bloated software, and we loved the ease of use and the flexibility and the power of modular software. And what we didn't know back then, but what we figured out after we launched this modular platform, is that the majority of the market is companies with lots of teams, lots of product, lots of chaos, and also lots of change, right?
Mm-hmm.
even if they figure out something and standardize a process or a way of how this product organization is working, 9 months later you will change stuff anyways, right? So changes is kind of a constant.
Mm-hmm.
And this realization that the majority of companies, they're just messy and complex. This realization wasn't there in the beginning, but we learned then that the flexibility and the modularity is a must-have for these organizations. If you want to get close to even anything like a single source of record, right, where there's an engine-driven approach to how you make decisions in a complex organization, you can only get there with flexible software, and that's been like the superpower or the key insight, I would say, over the years.
That's very interesting. And it's like embrace the unknown. You had something, like that's where we want to go. You didn't have all the answers, but you had this gut feeling. And that's what some people sometimes miss because they think, okay, we need to run all the experiments and so on. And sometimes you need to take a stand and say, here, I sense this is the right thing, and let's move and see what happens.
Yeah.
So it's the gut
And,
feeling and the
yeah,
passion because you had a passion. So you were tired of this complex thing, bloated product. So you want flexibility and then figure
yeah,
it out on the way.
exactly. But I would also differentiate between a gut feeling that you have today and
Uh-huh.
a well discussed, well informed gut feeling that you
Hmm.
develop over months in a team of smart people. I
Of
think
course.
that is also different. And you have no idea. Like we discussed for 3 months whether we wanted to build a modular platform or not. So it's a well educated gut feeling, I would say.
And which is fine. It's like you
Yeah,
discuss and you say, like, okay, we may lack the evidence backing all of that, but we
yeah,
believe it's the right thing to do,
yeah. You have
which
to do that.
which turned out to be the right thing because after a few years, you got players interested in acquiring our focus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
So how did you
exactly.
feel after the first approach? I don't know, like if Loose Chart was the first one, but how did you feel about moving from being an independent company to being acquired?
Yeah, I mean, a lot happened between this launch of the modular air focus platform and then the acquisition that just happened 3 months ago. Um, so back in 2021, when we launched, we were still in the mindset, hey, PLG, that's the only way to build a modern software company. We had no salespeople. It was all self-serve. We spent so much time on onboarding flows and perfecting the individual experience for a new user, for an invited user. You have no idea. I burned through 5 onboarding tools. I spent probably myself, I spent months on optimizing the onboarding for users. And we then learned when like the crash happened in 2022, we learned that SME and the individual players, this is not for us, like many other companies, by the way. So we went up market, yeah. And we didn't just go up market to the modern soft companies. Like we didn't try to sell to Google, or we learned quickly that there's actually a much more interesting market, which is the rest of software companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I call them non-tech first tech companies. Yeah, so essentially companies where the main business model is not selling software, but companies that go through digital transformation and they have like tons of internal tools. They have to manage very complex infrastructure systems, and they need to do product management, and they need to do road mapping. And sometimes it's very old school road mapping where you know exactly what the solution is, and the now next later roadmap is maybe not the tool you need at this point right now, but you need a Gantt chart, right? That is maybe a bit informed by customer feedback. So you take some parts of project management and then some parts of product management that fit this case or this team or this situation. So it's very messy there, right? And the normal product management playbook that you and I probably love so much, right? You cannot always apply it 100%. So we went into this market of what we call complex product organizations that are not tech first, and we saw really really good traction there. And then we probably realized way too late that actually we need to have a very strong sales motion behind all of that, because these people don't want to do the credit card swipe purchase. They want to be taken by the hand and they want people to help them set up stuff and be part of meetings and develop the sales conversation. So we then kind of shifted to more of a product-led sales motion, which we still apply today. And then we did that for a very long time. We raised more rounds. So over the years, we have raised 15 million in venture capital. And then the beginning of last year, we were like very long-term oriented. We still loved what we're doing. We still love what we're doing today. And we made like plans for the next years, right? Like have a good runway, have the right team. What's the growth framework? How do we acquire and retain customers? All of that. And we didn't want to sell. No plans of selling. And then the people of at Lucid reached out and said like, hey, I want you to meet some more people. And I was like, okay, why? But I always like these people, and I had spoken to them probably 5-6 times over the years, which is maybe a tip for founders. Build these relationships to potential strategic acquirers early on. It's a very long-term game, and the trust that I had was able to build with these people over 2 years was really, really valuable in then continuing this conversation and going deeper on M&A talks. But yeah, then we talked a bit more, and then at some point they said, okay, let's now intros aside, and we're looking into the space, and we think about acquiring someone, and we're talking to some people like, do you want to talk?
Mm-hmm.
And then we started deeper conversations, and then yeah, essentially there was a long process. I can go into the details of this process, but yeah, Airfocus is now still a standalone company in the Lucid suite, and we are selling cross-selling into the amazing, huge customer base of Lucid, and there are really, really great overlaps between their customers, also like non-tech first companies like Jaguar and like not the typical Silicon Valley SaaS suspects, but like the rest of us, yeah. And these people, just like you and me 8 years ago in Brazil or Hamburg, they're struggling with these topics because it's hard, yeah. And we can now, on top of the visual calibration capabilities that Lucid provides, we can now give them road mapping, portfolio management, customer insights, prioritization, OKRs, all that stuff that we're doing.
That's awesome. Another lesson you shared, it is like how you serve your customers. So you need to know how they work. Like you started with 100% product-led growth, no salespeople, and then you went to a different market, and then you recognize that market needed a different way of acquiring the product, and you adapted. And that's the reality, because what happens, I notice sometimes with product, is like, this is the way we do things. And it's funny because like how we create products, we want to be like flexible and so on. But I say, no, it's only product-led growth. But sometimes actually your customers are not ready for that. And
Yeah.
you need to recognize, otherwise the sales will stall.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually wish I would have applied more of the product management principles of kind of defining these hypotheses and figuring out stuff faster. Yeah. So imagine we would have figured out that the sales motion actually is the better approach through some experiments in like a systematic approach. We would have saved a year, and a year is so much in the startup world. Yeah, it's a year of runway. It's a year of like hiring or not hiring 5 people or 10 people. Yeah, and I think we didn't do a tremendously good job. So I think as a founder, you really want to use the product management playbook, or make use of some of the tools in the playbook, just as from a first principle perspective, ask high level questions like, who are my users? Who are my customers? How do they like to sell? How do they like to use the product? What do they really need? And do that in a systematic way. Try to de-risk as much as possible, and then and it's obviously like easier said than done.
Well, there's a lesson, and learn and you adapt in the future. And talking about lessons, there are many people who want to become founders, and now you have AI superpowering people and so on, and there are even more people thinking, Should I go that? Should I do? What would you tell to people thinking about becoming founders?
Well, first of all, there cannot be enough founders, right? Like, I mean, there are so many unsolved problems. Yeah. So if you think about the movies and the books in the 70s, right? They thought by this year now we would have flying cars and we would have like so much crazy tech. But the reality is we don't have a lot of stuff, right? A lot of problems are not solved. Look left and right and see how people suffer and inequalities and the types of jobs people still have to do. So there are so many unsolved problems, and you will need entrepreneurs to solve these problems. So if you feel the spark, go for it, but also treat it as an experiment. This job is not for everyone, and you should be willing to make crazy sacrifices with regards to time and relationships and all of these things, right? Like my daughter just turned 7, and I try to be around as much as possible. But for sure, one of the costs that I had to pay was spending less time with my daughter, which is a terrible thing, right? And I'm not advertising for the role right now, but it's also just fulfilling, right? And you will quickly find out whether this is for you or not. And then if it is for you, you will never go back. It's the best.
Yeah, great point. Unsolved problems, feel the spark, and know the trade-offs.
Yeah.
And now a tricky question. Did you ever think about giving up?
Not really.
Uh-huh.
No, I never thought about it. There were many situations where we were like with the back to the wall and we didn't know what to do. But you almost always know what is the plan B, which is not usually not a nice plan. Maybe it's a round of layoffs, or it's like something else that is bad. Yeah, taking bad terms in a venture round, like something like that. But there is a fallback. If you have some sort of product market fit and some revenue,
Mm-hmm.
and we never asked that question now.
Wow. And now looking at reality, like most startups, they don't last 5 years. So, and we are talking about big numbers, like 80 to 90%. That's not what happened with Air Focus. Air Focus was acquired. Like, what were the 3 or a few things that you would say, like, they were the reason that made us keep moving and become successful?
Yeah. So I think the things that I will tell you, they are more like evergreen wisdom, but still
Mm-hmm.
always valid to hear them another time. So everything is dependent on a good team. So in our case, we had like 3 founders that had a very friend-like relationship, and many startups fail because of like founder dynamics or people not being able to work together. In our case, that was always working quite fluently. So we got that covered. And then the other thing is like timing, and it's also very much related to luck. Yeah. So I think if you would start a product management platform today, you would probably have a very hard time to compete. Yeah. So wisely pick the problem you want to go after and the market you want to go after, and you don't want to be like 10 years behind entering a market unless you have a unique insight or a unique approach to solving things, which in my view, there are now more opportunities than ever. Yeah. So I think pretty much any industry will be rethought through AI. Maybe some industries have such strong players that they will figure it out. Yeah. So will someone now disrupt Figma in terms of how beautiful product design is created? I don't think so. There will be challengers, and I may be totally wrong, right? But there are really good products, really good companies that will figure it out. But many other companies, they will just die, and someone else will do the job because they don't have the culture of going through such a reinvention. So I think that just so many advantages. And I think what we understood early on was that while we are really product centric and product enthusiasts and like taste driven people. Product is just like half of the distribution. You need a great product for sure, but you need to keep the distribution in mind all the time, and you need to know how to get to people. Yeah, and I think this is probably even more true today than ever. When the cost of building software goes down, more people can build the software, which means more people will fight for the attention of the limited customer base, and also kind of acquiring customers and doing marketing and all of that also becomes easier because of the tools and the AI advancements. So you really want to think hard, at least half of the week or half of your day, about like, how do we actually distribute our product and get to customers? And probably the tools that worked in the past won't work tomorrow. So yeah, you need to figure this out. And there are people that know this much better than me, but there are really unique approaches today to go to closer to your customers. So think about like the company TLDV. I don't know if you know them, but they get like millions in TikTok and Instagram views on their videos because they have this like a fun approach to tech work, and people just love it. And next time they have a transcription problem, they will pick the software, right? Because they found a unique creative way to distribute their ideas, and I think you need to do something like that. And in my case, it's also like years of work on figuring out LinkedIn, for example. So we picked a channel in LinkedIn for my profile as a founder, but also the company. And we're not trying to be the best on all the platforms, but we pick LinkedIn, and you have to pick a few channels and then really be great at them, which I don't think we are, but you have to pick these, and then like focus and go creatively at these channels.
Great lessons, evergreen lessons. The first one is first who, then where. So you get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. That's a Jim Collins approach. First who, then where, which I believe very much, because once you have the team figured out, you can move on. And the problem, right? So you need to choose precisely the problem you want to solve, because now, as you mentioned, depending on the area you go, you might be behind the market. So you need to find a strong differentiation. And the distribution. And distribution is something the big players will always have a way of, even if they come later to the game, they can crash the others. Look at, for example, I think Slack is infinitely better than Teams, but Microsoft just put together with the Office suite, so it gets to everyone. Distribution cannot be ignored, but you need to pick the channels and explore what works for you, and that's it. Go for that. Great lesson. Anything else you want to share with those watching us?
Good question. What do I want to share? No, I mean, I'm turning around the question to you a little bit. I think it's so fascinating to think about what AI is doing to product management. I don't know. This is a topic where I'd be super curious to hear your point. I think we talked about it when we had dinner like 9 months ago, but so much has changed. So what has changed, David?
So what has changed is now it's becoming more accessible, and knowledge is out there on how you can use it. So like agentic AI is already becoming a thing, so you can use it. And what I am seeing right now is like PMs can really amplify their potential, and I would say they can regain like 20 to 30% of their time easily. And it's not about becoming irrelevant to the market and being replaced by AI. It's actually about getting the time that is missing to do the job you couldn't do before. Because what was happening to many people, especially in countries that are highly risk averse, for example, Germany, as you mentioned in the beginning, even you see like how you found a company, it's like, let's focus on the German market. Then you have to do all of these things, backlog management and so on. But now what I see, like people are creating playbooks with the prompts they need. They have specific tools. Because if we would go back to 9 months ago, it was still very much chat GPT. So that was a tool. But now people say, like, for research, I like more Perplexity, for example. Then for coding or some other infographics, I go to Claude. Then for other things, there are tools like Lovable. I create a prototype, I can just run that. And now there are more people experimenting. So I'm saying, like, before there was uncertainty, fear, now there's more curiosity and more people jumping into that, and it's becoming more integrated to the day to day. I still think there is a room for improvement. One of the aspects I cannot deny is that, like, AI still doesn't have the care for the product. So, for example, if you create one product with a lovable or bolt or any of this, you can be surprised with the usability glitches you're gonna have, and you can be surprised with the side effects of prompts. You can still create something there, but you need to know about usability because the tool is not gonna make something outstanding. So you need to guide the tool. Like I would say, like if you look at the team, you need micromanaging to the AI right now. You cannot give full empowering. That's not gonna work.
Amazing. Yeah, what I really love is that the whole conversation around testing and validating ideas got so much cheaper. I think this is the biggest thing. Also for company building, right? Like think about all the things that I mentioned in the last 30 minutes around where I wish I would have validated something faster. For example, the validation whether a modular or rigid product management system is the better approach, right? It took us a year to be even close to validating that with something that actually works. And I think if we would have the tools that we have today, we would have been able to learn so much faster. And so I think that excites me about product management the most right now. Maybe not so much the final development, which I think will remain in the hands of actual engineers for quite some time. We have tried multiple times to use AI to actually make the development of the complex air focus product like AI driven. We actually failed. It's too big, too complex, too unique, too creative. The AI completely fails building features on the Air Focus platform. This will take a few years, and then probably this problem will be solved too. But for the product manager and the designers to test ideas and have like something that is more than a click dummy, it's really inspiring.
Yeah, for the experimentation, for sure, it's inspiring, empowering. But I'm curious, like you said, it completely failed. Like, what it failed?
Yeah, so as you know, the way AI works is it's always guessing the next token, the next word, the next letter, and and in the case of AirFocus, there's like very unique creative decisions that were made in the past that the AI doesn't know, and it also struggles to figure it out. So it every time you ask it to do something, it creates like more problems than it actually solves. But these are problems that the engineers that then have to fix them take a lot of time, and it's very frustrating. So you have like crazy resistance from the engineers, but it's actually not solving the problem. So we have tried extensively in the last months with all kinds of tools, starting with simple stuff like uploading all of the code to an AI and then giving a lot of context, kind of like onboarding a new developer. It fails. Nothing it creates is anywhere close to like a shippable piece of code.
It connects to my experience. So, like, the first prompts, they wow you. So you see something like, wow, there's a clickable prototype here, and so on and so on. But the moment you start iterating, you get side effects, problems that are very
Yeah.
unrelated to what you created. And you say, like, huh? How does this relate to what I created there? And then at some point, you realize that you're using your credits to fix the problems that you should not have in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that is for a prototyping thing. which you can still bear this because you're not investing time in engineering and so on, and you know you're gonna throw that away. But when it goes to a product that is in production, it's a very different story. You don't want to have the side effects. You simply don't want. So that's when I said the micromanaging. So you need to be very precise and so on, which sometimes it's just better to do the software engineering itself. So let's just do what we should do instead of asking AI to do. But I believe the future might be different. I think it's still developing and so on. It's early, but
Very early.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. And for those who want to connect with you, how should they find you?
LinkedIn is my place. Yes, send me a connection request. I love to chat and be of help. And yeah, if you're struggling with product management and road mapping in complex situations with lots of teams, lots of products, lots of alignment issues, make sure to check out Airfocus by Lucid.
Great. Yeah, so make sure to check Air Focus. You're gonna see a lot of things. There are a few templates from me there, like you can just
Yeah,
try it out.
exactly.
It's a great tool. It's simple to use, easy to understand, flexible. Remember how we started the conversation? We talked a lot about the pains of road mapping and so on. That can get these pains out in a streamlined way. All right. So thanks for watching, everyone. It was great, and I hope you get insights. And so let's rock the product world. So